Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Today we are going to check out four preamps. We're going to check out the Alembic F-1X, the Arkham Zephyr, the Mesa D800 Plus amplifier, and then the Demiter 201. And these are four of my favorite all-time preamps. A video I made yesterday, the voice was way too quiet. Even the preamps were a little bit too quiet. So I'm trying to make this again. I figure, well, to make it worthwhile, I'll actually add the amp that I use all the time into the mix. And I'm going to be using this wonderful Valenti bass to actually demo and check out these preamps. So let's get started, and let's get started with the Mesa. And right now I've got everything set flat on all these guys. So we're going to start from a neutral ground and work our way up. I'm just making sure I actually am telling you the truth. As far as all that's concerned, yeah, I believe I'm telling you the truth. Okay. So that's the Mesa. And we got our Alembic. And flat on that is 210-2 because this is the Fender Passive Interactive RCA Tom Walker tone circuit. And on the Mesa, by the way, flat is with the voicing control all the way to the left, all the way off, because that's just kind of a boost only. Or, you know, when it's all the way to the left, it's not doing anything. Let's go to the Demiter. I love the Demiter. I love all of these, but man, I used the Demiter in my rack for years and years and years. And finally went to the Mesa just because the rack was 45 pounds and the Mesa's not. It's like 7. Demiter is flat with everything pointed straight up except for the presence control, which once again is kind of boost only. And let's go to the Arkham. Hopefully I've got the Arkham on flat, which is everything, you know, all the way up. All right, well, let's start messing around with tone controls. If I can hit this, but I've got this ridiculous setup of Leel pedals and everything here. We're back to the Mesa. So let's start messing with the voicing control a little bit. It's not exactly a mid scoop, and I think that the center point kind of moves around a little bit, but it kind of boosts some lows and highs, and depending on where you put it, it gets pretty useful. And it really depends on the bass and on the room. And very often, like, you can have it all the way off and cut really well with the mids. So it's one of those things that, you know, you have to use it to taste. I like to use a little bit usually. And the bright switch on this thing, I really like. The D800, which I also use all the time, doesn't have one, which is, it makes me sad. I think the 350 actually has one, but no deep switch. And for my money, the bright switch is much more useful than the deep switch. I think I'd never use the deep switch in a live setting, but just saying. Turn that bright switch off. All right, let's go to the Alembic, I think. Let's mess around with the tone controls on the Alembic now. There is a scratchy mid pop, forgive me. I haven't taken this thing apart and deoxed that because I just haven't. So, let's see. 686 is actually a pretty cool setting. Probably about 696. And as I turn the mid control down a little bit, you start to hear like this more bass because it's passive interactive. All these tone controls, you move one, everything else changes. There's a scratch. And now it's got this cool bright switch, which is pretty bright. It's also got this deep switch, which changes the value of a resistor in the bass control, but it changes the way the entire amp sounds. So you want to play some old school, like 70s Grateful Dead, this is the amp for you. Get a little louder because the mids come back when you take the deep switch off. So that's our Alembic, and let's mess around. Let's mess around with the Demeter a bit. So I usually like to boost the bass a little bit. And I have the bass set at, you can select 60 or 120. I usually like it at 60. We go to 120. Which can cut through more, but depends on the situation. Also got a bright switch. I like to boost the presence a little bit. A lot of times I like that better than the bright switch. I usually boost 4K, but you can switch it to 2K. I usually don't boost that much, but just a little bit. And let's see here if I don't sneeze. Let's go back to the Mesa. Demiter. Let's go to the Arkham. This has the James tone circuit. It's kind of like a B15 clone from what I understand. So it's got, bass and treble shelving controls. But it's got this range control. It's not a mid-range control. So it's like kind of like where do the shelving points start and stop on the other two controls. So we can get like pretty aggressive sound. To make sure it was a D there. Go from that to much more fat. And it's got some. I think the boosts are all active. It's obviously the high boost, and it's pretty powerful. There's a mid boost. And we've got our low boost. Which boosts, it's almost like a low mid or a high low or whatever you want to call it. the Mesa. This is the time, like the amp, like I'm playing the Mesa. I was thinking about selling the Arkham. I like it, but I had too much stuff. And I switched to the Arkham, and the guitar player that I was playing with at a gig went, "What was that you just did? That was awesome." I was like, "Oh man, I can't sell it." It's a very aggressive preamp. Somebody, that I was talking to, they might have commented on my video or commented elsewhere. You said that, the Arkham is one of those preamps that doesn't sound as exciting by itself as it does in the mix. In the mix, it's like, man, it's right there, and you can hear yourself, and it sits exactly where you need it to, and that's true. It's one of those things that, like, when I play a live show and I use this thing, it is, like, right there. And there's nothing wrong with the Mesa. This is the Arkham. That's the Mesa. Arkham doesn't have the girth that any of the other three amps have. That's our Arkham. It's a Demiter. Let's go to the Mesa. One of the reasons I actually kept the Mesa D800 when I had the TT800 and the WD was I could get the Mesa to sound the most like the Demiter out of all of them. And I really missed the WD especially, but I could get this one like reliably to be almost like in the range, the ballpark of the Demiter. That's the Demiter. Arkham. Demiter. Boost the mids on that C. Yeah, so we get it close, but not in Arkham territory, And let's see, Alembic. So there's our Alembic at a tone that I just decided I liked today. That's a Demiter. Another tone I like today. That's the Arkham today, what a tone I decided I liked. And there's our Mesa at a tone I decided I liked today. So yeah, at the end of the day, honestly, the Mesa is a wonderful sounding solid state amplifier. I use it every single week. Most of my gigs are just done with that or the D800, which sounds really, really close to this, and works fine. The Alembic is a wonderful pillowy sound, and there's a million tones in there, and I love every time I play with it. Sometimes it doesn't cut through as much unless I kind of remove some of that pillowiness. So like we can go back to like the flat tone a little bit, but I can get it to cut through just fine. I'll be missing the big boom sound that you can get with that. The Arkham is a monster, and this thing overdrives really well too. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to mess around with the interface and trying to get it to do that correctly, but it cuts through like nobody's business. So in a live band setting, especially an aggressive band, rock band, the thing is like awesome. And the Demiter, I can't say anything bad about it. It's the amp that I used. I mean, not this particular unit. I used a single space version for a long time because it was like it would fit with some other stuff in there. That would never hesitate to use a Demiter 201. It's just got the sound. It always sounds like the Demiter. Not as much tone control as the Alembic has. And probably, or even as the Arkham has, but it has a different sound. But it always sounds like that, And I noticed that the Arkham always kind of sounds like the Arkham. The Alembic is a little bit more of a chameleon, but it starts to sound like the Alembic pretty fast. And the D800 Plus is just a workhorse. And when I say workhorse, I don't mean it has a bread and butter sound. I mean, you can get a lot of tones out of that sucker. And ditto for the regular 800, and I kind of use those interchangeably as far as when I use them. But, if you haven't heard these amps up against each other, which I think is really what you need to do is hear them up against each other, here's a little bit of that. If you ever want me to do anything else with these, let me know, and I can probably try to make another comparison video of some kind. But, unless you hear them up against each other, you really don't know what they really sound like. And I've only kind of scratched the surface with, especially the Alembic. The Arkham's got some more tones under there. The Demiter, you heard it. That's what that thing does. All right, kids, I will talk to you later. Hope this was helpful.